Join our psychedelic smoke sesh as we explore exciting new dimensions of existence, thought, and possibility.
We'll take you out of this world and blaze through infinite realms, while occasionally forgetting what we were saying.
This is Higher Consciousness. Welcome to season 5 of Higher Consciousness.
5.
I
The
know.
hell?
Can you believe that we're on 5 already?
Jesus Christ.
I think not too far from now, if we haven't already passed it. I put it on the calendar. I don't actually remember. Will be our 1-year anniversary since we've launched.
Yeah.
Because we launched in Virgo seed. What's it say on the calendar? I want you to look.
Now that I'm
Dave. No, yeah, look it up. It's in there. I know it's in there. I don't think we passed it yet.
What date were you thinking?
Is it next week?
I mean,
Here, let me see.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
I'll find it. I'll
Sure.
figure it out.
Okay. So, season 5, we're doing a whole season of love. Since we just got married 3 times, in fact. Even before we went on our wedding season there, we had decided that we were going to transition after we got married into talking about love, because we talked about a lot of different subjects. We talked a lot about healing. We talked a lot about just consciousness in general. The last season 4, was much more about just sort of the physical, science-y kind of aspects of,
yes,
of consciousness and our conscious awareness. But now I think we want to get into the emotions that we all kind of share. Emotions, after all, are the language of consciousness.
It's not in your calendar for some reason.
Well, if it's not in my calendar, then it ain't in your calendar.
No, it is.
Well, then you didn't share it with me.
No, I did. You may have just not accepted it.
Oh, come the F on.
It's
I
true,
accept
I did.
every single thing that you put into our shared calendar.
See, this is
So,
a look into that.
right. So, go look at your phone. Oh, but your phone is recording us right now, so
yeah, so we can't look at it.
Not as important as you may think it is right now, though. So.
No, I know, but I wanted somehow got to 2020.
She wants to know.
Maybe that's why. I was in 2020. I was in the wrong month.
So this is the Dave part of Higher Consciousness.
Yes, this is the Dave part of Higher Consciousness.
We are talking today about breakups. Relationships that maybe were pretty great in the beginning, but fizzled out.
I can't find it. It's
yeah,
not in
I
your
had
calendar.
a feeling you wouldn't be able
It's
to
in my
find
calendar,
it,
but it's not in your calendar for some reason.
But I can't wait to look and see if it's in your calendar, because
it is.
Probably not.
I bet you $5.
I don't want
to.
The
calendar's
$5,
right there.
So
I'll look it up on that calendar. That one will know. But yes,
anyways,
as you were saying, we're going to be talking about breakups, and we just got married.
We did
3 times.
I don't know why you just transitioned it from breakups into we got married. So
well, because
I kind of made it sound like, well, we're talking about breakups and we just got married. So
yeah, that's it. We're done. No. No, I meant to piggyback on what you were saying, that we just got married, and because we just got married, we wanted to do a full season about love and relationships and all the things that go along with that.
That's right. And we decided we were going to talk about breakups, because breakups are what led us to one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So obviously, I think everybody goes through lots of breakups in their life. Even if it's just a small breakup in your little high school, romance or whatever. I mean, a lot of people actually meet their soulmate in high school and continue on. But for a lot of us, it takes a while. So to find that right person.
Everybody's path is going to be different.
Yeah. So before we get into all that, though,
we have to do the blessing.
We got other things we got to take care of here. So.
Shout out to Canna Hit This for this little baby bowl here.
Canna Hit This.
Canna Hit This. And Better Butter Brothers for providing us with some good bud as always. And shout out to A Meaningful Dream for providing us this higher consciousness bundle. So let's start with this. And it's a fresh baby.
My goodness.
I know, dinner was great. We had biscuits and gravy.
Dinner, but that's all right.
That's all right. It is what it is. We're here. We're doing it right now. So
the moment is the moment.
The moment is the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help open up the space so we can have a really good conversation. Let's take a couple deep breaths together. One more time. And cleanse this space. We open up this space. We ask that our spirit guides and our ancestors be with us today as we deliver these messages to the collective. Thank you so much for your love and your abundance. Mary Jane, in this beautiful bundle. Thank you and amen. You were fine.
Sorry. The smoke hit me like so abruptly, so I felt it was like right by my face. It's like, ugh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So, all right, so we're going to do the blessing right here so you can see it. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Bless you, Mary Jane, and thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for your abundance. Thank you for your love and support. And thank you for making this a dope show. May we have a great time, and may what we have to share open the hearts and the minds and the perspectives of those who are listening and or watching. Thank you again for all that you give us and all the healing that you have helped us with. We bless you and we thank you. So dope it be.
So dope it be.
So the question is do we start with the bowl or do we start with the joint?
It's a joint. What are you talking about? I ain't gonna smoke a bowl and then go to a joint.
I mean, you could.
Yeah, it's physically possible, but typically I like to tackle the large thing first and then maybe finish it up with the smaller thing. So like if you got 2 different sized pieces of pizza on your plate, you typically eat the bigger one first. You don't eat the smaller one first, right? Well, I mean, from my perspective, if you eat the big pizza first, then you're gonna have a better chance of eating that smaller piece, right? Rather than if you eat that small piece and you're like, I'm still kind of full, or I'm feeling kind of full, you may not be able to make it through that big piece. So I always tackle the big thing first. Kind of like a project, right?
Right.
Tackle the big part of the project first, and then you tackle all the little details later.
Yes.
So, big project, little details.
That's great. I love it. So, okay, breakups. I will say that the last breakup I had was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my entire life. I wouldn't have told you that in that moment, maybe.
Yeah, the roll is too tight.
Yeah, it's okay. Maybe loosen it up a little bit. But it truly did transform me as a person and as a being, and it eventually led me to Dave.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give you a backstory for like my personal past, right before I met Dave, well, 6 months before I met Dave, I went through a breakup process. Because it wasn't just a breakup one and done sort of thing. It was a breakup and then like slowly remove myself from that situation because I was living with them. I had animals with them. I had all kinds of shit. I had to figure out where I was going to live. And it was a long time coming. It was one of those relationships where I should have ended it much sooner. Looking back at it, however, everything happens for a reason and everything is divine timing. But I would say it took me about 4 years to really come to terms with being able to leave that relationship. And it took a lot for me to get to that point to be able to be like, this is not healthy for me. This isn't good for me. This isn't what I want. And I think what made me hold on for so long was the potential, the idea that maybe it could change, that maybe it could be better, that yes, I did think that this person was going to be around for forever, but then when I look back at it, I was treated like absolute horse shit.
No, not like any other shit, horse shit. Because that's
very
a lot
specific.
Of shit.
Yeah, it's a lot of shit.
And it's
like
sort
seriously.
of like compact into like a nugget.
And it wasn't just by my ex, it was by some of not all of my ex's family, but even some of my ex's family wasn't really good to me either. So it was not something that I really felt safe being in, but it also created this sense of not feeling safe even if I were to leave it, which I think is partly why it took so long, because I was scared. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, how I was going to live, how I was going to pay for part of the bills and all the other things.
It's a rough situation to be, in a way, like trapped in a relationship with someone. Trapped. You know, like I wouldn't say that I've ever felt trapped per se in a relationship. However, I went through a lot of self-discovery in my relationships, and when I met you, I realized that I had been giving too much of my own power away in relationships, and not speaking my mind and not being more vocal about what I was thinking and feeling, for fear of that other person, you know, not liking that side of me and then leaving me, right?
Right.
I have, how many breakups have you had?
Major breakups?
No, I'm talking like major, like people that you've dated for quite a while, not just like went on a Tinder date and you were like, you don't look like your photos, fuck you, guy. Like,
well, I will say I did a lot of my dating in high school, and I used to do this thing where it would be, like, looking back at it now, it's quite funny, and I always knew who I was going to date next, which, sorry, guys, like, I don't mean to, but I did. It was this thing where I would date somebody for 3 months, then I would not,
this joint is coming apart at the
seam. I see that. I'll take care of it.
I mean, be my guest.
But I used to do this thing where I was in a relationship for 3 months, and then I was out of a relationship for 3 months, and then I found myself in another relationship for around that 3 month time. One lasted around 6 months. And actually all of those relationships, I think I had 12 different relationships, maybe more, in high school. I don't remember.
God damn, girl.
I lost count. Yeah, that's what I said. I did
one.
most of my dating now. I had a lot in high school and a little bit of middle school as well. But actually nobody let me rephrase that. Everyone broke up with me. It wasn't until the last 2 relationships where I was the one that broke up with them. And those last 2 relationships were the more serious relationships. Whereas the other ones, where I think were more like, Now, there was this one person who I would say was semi-serious. And actually, there was a couple of people. There were 2 people that I went through a breakup in high school that I managed to still be able to be friends right now in this time and in this moment. And those are nice. And those ones were probably the harder ones that I went through in high school. And both of them had the same conclusion, that they didn't want the relationship, and they both told me that they thought I could deserve more than what they could give.
Interesting. Yeah, I must say it's a really nice thing when you date someone and you have, you know, such a good relationship with them, but ultimately you find out that you maybe aren't romantically paired well, but you have such a good relationship with them that you still remain friends. Like that happened to me and my high school girlfriend that I dated between like junior and senior year. So she basically like left to go to Oklahoma to go to college, because that's where she was originally from. And I tried to make it work, or we tried to make it work. Man, was that a nightmare. But
it was, you needed to go through it.
Right, but at the same time, like, we're still friends. Like, I don't talk to her all the time, but I mean, I have still stayed in connection with her. And if I ever needed anything, I'm definitely, you know, positive she would help me out.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You know, I would definitely help her out if she needed my help.
Yeah.
And I have maybe like 2 or 3 other relationships that I've been in that I could say something similar. But most of those other relationships, I'm pretty sure that other girl doesn't want to see my face ever again. So.
Yeah.
But
I know I don't want to see the people. I mean, anyway.
Well, I mean, that's
no
kind
one
of how
wants
breakups are, man.
Yeah,
like,
no
it's
one wants
really
to see
intense,
them.
you know. So
It
sometimes
is.
it's just
very
like
emotional,
it's too much, you know.
tumultuous. Yes, because it can trigger things,
Yeah.
you know. But then it can also be a thing. Like for me, like I would honestly feel like it would be not a safety thing, but it would be one of those things where it's like it doesn't need to happen. It just doesn't need to. We don't need to see each other. Like that's it's not. It wouldn't be a good thing. I've made peace with it, but it just would not be a good thing. I think.
Right.
I think it would just it would trigger too much. It's one of those kind of breakups. I think most breakups are one of those things where you're done and you leave that person's life and you're not meant to be in that life with them anymore, and that's it.
Well, I was explaining to you the other day that, many of my past relationships, many of the women that I dated, they were all very much just an archetype. They were this beautiful, on the outside goddess, but then on the inside, not so much. Many of the girls that I dated were just emotionally unavailable. Just had their own things going on. Yeah, had their own things going on, their own neuroses or self-conscious issues that weren't being addressed, and they thought by being with someone that would help, or being with someone like me would help. Because I'm not a typical dude. Like, I'm a nice dude. I would say I'm much more of a feminine dude versus like that masculine man, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can be a masculine man.
I was gonna say, you have the very you're interesting because you do have you're very in touch with your feminine, but you're also in touch with your masculinity as well.
Right. So in a lot of times in relationships, for me, like a lot of times, I would be, for whatever reason, attracted to the girl that wanted more of that masculine dominating man in their life, almost like their father in a way, rather than me. However, there were some women that I think liked me at first because I wasn't like most men, and I was sort of more in touch with my feminine side. However, when they got into the relationship with me, they were like, oh wait, I'm not sure if I really want that after all, But again, it's that, I think a lot of us, when we're young, it's that type of time of our lives when we're evolving and changing and experimenting and trying things out and saying like, well, I didn't like that, so maybe I'll try this. Oh, maybe I don't like that as much. Well, maybe I'll try this, So it is sort of fraught within the landscape of early relationships in your life that things are going to happen that aren't going to be so great, But it pushes you in an ultimate direction towards the things that are great.
Exactly. And we found one another, and here we are.
Right.
3 weddings later in the honeymoon.
Still here.
Yes, still here. So, yes, I want to kind of dive deeper into the consciousness aspect of a breakup.
Yeah.
So, what does that do consciously, collectively, and individually? So, I feel like think about it. So it can, depending on what kind of breakup, because love is one of the things that we all strive for and all want. Love is like the ultimate energy that is here for us.
Or you could say love is really the only emotion.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Well, the pantheon of emotion really is either a different expression of love or lack of thereof, right? So, like,
exactly.
Fear is the fear of not having love, right?
Right.
Anger, I am angry that I am not experiencing love, right?
Yes.
Joy is just an expression of
love,
right? Same as excitement,
yes.
Right? Excitement and happiness are very different, but it's still all around that central idea of love.
And consciously, that's ingrained in our conscious, and that's a part of consciousness.
You oftentimes forget the ness part at the end, so I always have to remind you. Ness.
Well, I meant to say conscious, and then I meant to say consciousness, because I was saying it's embedded in our conscious, right?
I see.
It's something that is a part of us just naturally. I mean, we are created by the act of love, or one physical act of love, which is sex, right? And so, like,
that's one.
That's just one, of many different acts of love. But
here's another.
Yes. So with that being said, it's already like something that we ultimately come into this life with, something that we also want to grow more of and crave. And again, it's an expression of emotions. So when a breakup happens, it can really consciously change the way we see love. And it could either it could do a lot. It could make us go forth on a path that is maybe not in alignment for us, or maybe it makes us go forth on a path that is in alignment for us. And it can change the way that we are, how we perceive ourselves, how we act out into the world, how we receive information, how we receive love, how we give love, what we even see. So like a breakup can like really shake the whole concept of love within us, both collectively and individually. Because if there's enough of us on a collective level that are experiencing these heartbreaks but are not healing from it, then collectively we aren't going to maybe be able to grow in an elevation of love. But rather we would maybe just stay stuck or repeat those similar patterns. But the more that we work on love, whether it be mostly self-love, because mastery of the self is mastery of the universe. And when we master love, the only emotion, we can, I think, truly master everything. And so it can just drastically change our life. It can drastically change the collective consciousness. It can drastically change generational karma, our own karma. I mean, I can't tell you how many like love pattern cycles I've seen in my family, other people's families, just in general. Like it happens. It's a part of a cycle, right? So breakups are truly interesting because they can be a starting point for somebody in some fashion, or it can almost be like an end point for them if they see it that way. And there's so many stories that we know about and hear about that are created because somebody had their heart broken.
Well, yeah. Well,
it's interesting.
I would say a majority of human expression is based off of either the experience of great love or the experience of great loss of love, right? I've heard once, I can't remember exactly what the quote is. I think Ethan Hawke, I don't know if he said it or if he was quoting it from someone else, but I saw this like video of Ethan Hawke talking about the arts and how important the arts is to all of humanity, and how a lot of people aren't artistically inclined or don't see it as an important thing within society. I mean, really, when you look at our educational system, the arts aren't really given a whole lot of funding or attention.
The first ones to get fucking cut.
Right. But when you think about it, the way that Ethan put it is that everybody needs that type of connection to emotion and our humanity at a particular moments within our lives. And it's typically when we're low. Typically when we've lost some kind of connection to love that we once had. Oftentimes when you break up with someone, when someone dies, when something happens to you in your life that shakes you to your core, then you're looking for that. You're looking for an expression of emotion, right? In order to understand your own emotion, to understand what you're feeling right then, right? So to me, I think it is imperative upon all of us to be connected to our emotions and be connected to what we see within our emotions. And yes. I mean, without diving too far away from the original subject of the show, I personally have been going through a lot of that myself that's unrelated to our topic. However, I think it's still all the same thing, right? Is, you can have, things happen to you that that you can see as a setback or as a push in the right direction. And breakups are oftentimes seen as setbacks, but most often they are pushes in the right direction.
It's the Fibonacci sequence. It's a setback in order to move forward, to make
right.
a quantum
You have to look
forward.
back in order to understand how to move forward.
Yes.
Right?
And it's interesting because, like, in a sense, if we're talking in a Fibonacci sequence sense or looking back, now remember, other people are essentially you, a reflection of you.
Mm-hmm.
So what breakups are in the state, or essentially are a death of identity of who you used to be and how you used to love.
Sorry, I'm like
and
fidgeting with my pillows here because like my back is like killing me right now, so I'm trying to like find a comfortable spot.
That's okay.
I think that's better.
Yes.
All right, continue. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I was saying that breakups are essentially like, you know, the other person being a reflection of you. It's you breaking up with an older version of you that no longer is in alignment with you. And that's how, like, going back, right? That's us going back and like realizing like, oh shit, this isn't for me, depending on, you know, your stance. Or maybe you're somebody who gets shocked. Like, let's say you're the breaker-upper and you consciously are looking back in the relationship and you're seeing that there's not a lot of moving forward. It's more setting back and back and back. And so you kind of have to be real and honest with yourself and ask yourself, like, what are you doing? What's happening? Why are you here? And why is this happening? And again, everything is a reflection of you. So that just means, like, there was a point in my life where I was just really toxic and I was just really not a good, like, person, as like, or maybe not the best person. Like, I think everyone is a good person, but I think everyone
good and bad is not really a thing.
Right. And I think you know, sometimes we don't even realize that we're being toxic, especially if we've had situations so much to reinforce those kind of behaviors.
Well, typically people who have been traumatized, be it verbally or physically, tend to re-traumatize and continue that cycle.
Be the victim or the abuser.
Yeah.
So it's basically like you breaking up with a part of yourself and you coming to terms with the fact that that isn't for you, and as the breaker-upper.
Right.
So that's essentially like how we go back, but then we have to move forward. Now, if you're the person getting broken up with, that back and forth wouldn't happen until after you've been broken up with, because you're going to look back after you've been broken up with and try to figure out what happened.
Yeah, how it went that way.
And eventually, hopefully, would come to the terms and give enough time or enough process. Because that's the thing, too, is sometimes when we do breakups, like, we respond in such different ways, you know, and it's all dependent on, I think, you know, who we are and what's available to us, what we've been taught, how we feel like we should handle these things. And sometimes we can handle breakups in ways that, like, I didn't think I would handle that. Like, you kind of learn about who you are when you have a breakup.
It's funny that you say it, because that's a good segue into something I was thinking about in the idea that within breakups, there is a certain conscious, you know, evolution that you go through the more you go through it, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I remember my very first, like, real breakup, right? I mean, because, gosh, like, I had girlfriends in grade school. I had a girlfriend when I was in, like, kindergarten, man. She may not say that, but
I had a boyfriend
we were together.
Since preschool.
See, like, we all have these, like, little relationships as
all
we
throughout
grow,
time, and
right?
we knew friends that were like, oh yeah, you guys were like the it couple.
Yeah, and it can be tough, like, as a kid, you know, because, like, it's not as intimate as it is when you get older, but it's still like, oh, that's sad, you know, I'm very sad about that. You know, you might not, like, cry and feel like your heart's ripping out of your chest, you know.
Depending on, like, how you love as a kid.
Yeah, depending on how. I'm
but most
judge.
of the time it's,
or I shouldn't assume, I should say. But I think when you get older, you know, for me, when I went through the very first breakup with my high school girlfriend, you know, that was rough, man. Like, I remember we actually, because she broke up with me preemptively, like right before she went off to college, because she was like, I don't want to like be in this relationship and then have to do like the back and forth stuff. So we're just going to break up now. And she broke up with me on my birthday. On my birthday. She broke up with me on my birthday, like quite literally.
Did she know it was your birthday?
Oh yeah, absolutely. She did.
She just really wanted to make it very clear.
I guess. I don't know. It was weird. So basically,
or just her being really mean.
Well,
yeah.
But the interesting thing was to me is that she broke up with me like months and months and months and months before she had to leave. I mean, she had to leave in like July or August, and she broke up with me in February.
Well, yeah, probably because she wants a little bit.
What the fuck?
Probably a little freedom.
But that's the thing is, I was okay with it. Well, I shouldn't say okay with it. I was understanding of it, and I went with it.
Not okay with it.
But she came back, and she's like, this is stupid. We should just be together and like enjoy our time and let's give it a shot,
Wait, how old were you again?
Like 17, something like that. So then we, tried the long distance thing for a while, and that was really rough because we didn't get to. This is before FaceTime and like reliable video chats and stuff like that. So all you had was phones, and we couldn't really talk to one another more than like maybe a couple times a week. It got actually to a point where we could only talk to one another once a week, and that's no way to really carry on a relationship.
Long distance one.
Yeah, so. That was just really rough. And I remember when I broke up, or when we finally broke up, because at that point we had kind of broken up a couple of times. It was sort of like a mutual understanding, like this just isn't working. But it was rough, man. I thought for sure for a long time I was going to marry her. Like I was like very, very much like planning the future and like all that sort of stuff. And when that happened, that's devastated me. I was really broken up about that relationship for years after that. I remember I didn't actually date much during college because of it. I was so focused on my schoolwork and so simultaneously broken up about that whole situation that I didn't put myself out there. I didn't put the energy out there that I wanted anything. So it didn't come. And then I dated, I don't know, like half a dozen, maybe more girls after that, from the periods of like a month to 6 months. Last relationship I was in, I was with that person for 2 years almost. And that was really great for a while. But as a lot of these relationships go, sometimes it fizzles out because that other person's just not ready, or that other person's just not in the right space, right?
Yeah, or they're just going on a different path or something.
Yeah.
It can be a lot of different things.
Well, I remember my very last relationship, she was just very depressed, and I didn't quite see it at first. It took many months for it to be very apparent to me that something was very wrong. But it
takes time for people to even accept that.
The roughest part.
It's not an easy thing to, I think, come to terms with.
Well, no, but I guess like the roughest part for me is that she told me that she had been depressed and she had been depressed for over a year, and that she had decided that she didn't want to be with me, and she'd stayed with me for over a year because of whatever obligation or fear of my feelings or whatever. But it almost kind of struck me as like, as much as I would have been sad, had we not had that last year, because there was a lot of fun times that we had together. So I felt like we had fun. At the same time, it was just like, man, I really kind of wish you would have told me, because that would have been maybe a better, opportunity for you to find something else and me to find something else as well, But again, everything happens for a reason when it's supposed to happen. And like I said before, it was like 2 months after that relationship when I met you. But it was like, it pushed me, right? Because like every relationship that I had up until that point was challenging me to put out to the universe exactly what I wanted.
Yep.
And it seemed as though every single time I wanted something different. But the thing was I wasn't including my own self-love in that equation. which is interesting. You know, I was only thinking about attaining a particular, you know, archetype of a companion, and then that would make me happy, right?
Yeah.
Rather than saying, fuck that, I just want to be happy, and this is what I'm going to do to be happy, right? And that's what I did after the last breakup. I started working out again because I had stopped working out, and I really loved it, so I decided to start working out, and I gained a couple pounds, so I wanted to, you know, get myself back out there, you know. So I started working out. I started, you know, just meditating more. I started taking better mental care of myself. I started, you know, hanging out with friends that I hadn't seen in a long time, and just, you know, being in that energy again. And again, it just changed. Everything changed. Your energy just changes, and because your energy changes, your exterior changes to coincide with it.
Oh yeah, so it does, major. I know that when I I was just thinking, one of the very first things that I did shortly after I broke up with my last ex of almost 8 years was start smoking weed. Like, legit.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, and like, you know, he had been trying to do it, and like there were a couple of times where I did it, but honestly, like I would hit it and like I would never feel it. I would never like get it, and like I know like I wasn't doing much differently by the time I was out of the relationship. Like honestly, I think I was so tense and so worked up that like I was just blocking it. Like not being able to like fully receive the experience.
Or something. We're trying to keep you in the frame.
So yeah, and ever since then I've been smoking weed, but like up until then, like I don't think I would have been nearly as open about it as I am now. I don't think it would be fully as accepted. I think that it's just the relationship with it just wasn't a good beginning relationship in that relationship, because that relationship was no longer good for me. And so it allowed me to create a relationship with Mary Jane. And then and here we are, higher consciousness. So it's interesting because it led me to something that I feel like I would consider this as like a soul purpose or soul calling.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I remember specifically I was talking with my buddy Kane right before we were going to work out one day, and this is
like an eye in here.
Very similar, or very soon after my last breakup, and we were headed to the gym, and I just remember I was telling him all about it, how I was thinking and feeling, and one of the things I said was, you know, I am absolutely done with dating people who aren't going to have like-minded tendencies of mine, right? I mean, I have all the compassion, love, and empathy for those opposite couples out there, because I think you do.
Opposite couples too.
We are in a way opposite, but you have to admit there is a hell of a lot that we have in common.
There is a lot that we have in common.
And I think for me, you know, in my last relationship, my ex didn't smoke at all, and she tried like you, and it just wouldn't, you know, do anything for her. And it's funny because like at the time I loved it, because I was just like, well, I get to smoke all of my weed, and she's not going to just be smoking all my weed all the time.
Well, back then too, it wasn't as readily as like available as it is now.
Right. So I was I was okay with it at first, but I think after a while it was just like, you know, I would have to like go outside to smoke because she didn't want me smoking in her apartment. So I'm just like sitting on the balcony just smoking by myself, and I'm like, oh, this is really lame, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my...
Mary Jane is meant to be shared.
Yeah, like that was one of my things, is that like my next partner was going to be someone who smoked, because I wanted to make sure that we could share that. And I also wanted them to be artistic, and I wanted them to, you know, have a kind of similar compassion for it. I remember my ex told me she could care less about my art, to be honest with you. Like, she didn't like it at all. I mean, she wasn't into it. It's not that she didn't like it.
Well, when you say it like that, you make it sound like it was like...
It wasn't her thing, man. It just wasn't her thing. She wasn't impressed by it. She didn't like think it was all that important or valuable, you know.
Sorry,
Like
didn't mean to get so mean.
well, but it's that, but that's the thing is like, you know,
no, yeah, that's just not.
I didn't give a shit about makeup, and it was like her life. Like she loved makeup, man. She was all about it, and she had all kinds of other things like roller derby and shit. But like, she just spent so much time on her makeup, and she was all about watching the beauty glam stuff. So, but
hey,
no,
there's something wrong with that.
but that's the thing. That's another thing too. Is that like relationships do show you different aspects about the world and expand your consciousness.
How you see the world.
About how you see the world.
In some fashion. Not fully, but because you still learn a lot from the other person. Like, that person isn't like fully and entirely you. It's just another observer of you.
Well, you totally it's something I didn't even anticipate, honestly, but you totally pulled me back into the spiritual aspects of my life that I got out of because I was in it hardcore. I was in it hardcore for the Mayan calendar period, right? Like the 2012 era. I was 100%. I remember going to a dinner with some friends and talking about that stuff and saying with utter conviction that like everybody's consciousness was going to raise at the same time. We were going to have this aha moment. The whole world was going to change. We were all going to like be peace and love, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I guess I'm not saying that it's not what happened. That is a prophecy set to happen, but not. It's like
we're not there yet.
I was like 100. I had a particular vision in my head of how it was going to go, and then when it didn't happen, I just like stopped doing all of that spiritual stuff for a while. And
it's so funny how. Go ahead.
Well, it's funny because like I stopped for a little while and then I kind of got back on because there was sort of this like I had a couple friends independently come tell me that they felt like a shift and that felt like a validating kind of fact. So I kind of got back into it a bit and you know I really went for it until I did comic books. And I got into comics and I did my first book, Atlas, which is all about a metaphysical superhero. Yeah. And then I feel like when that book didn't do as well, because I really had high hopes for that book to like transform my life. And I felt like I didn't really make as big a waves as I wanted to. That's when I really fell off. And I just stopped meditating. I stopped practicing any kind of like spiritual, stuff. And I just went full on into work and, making my comic book career happen. And I couldn't handle that after a while, man. Like it.
Well, yeah, because it's like basically you're disassociating a part of who us humans. Like it's being spiritual is a part of being a human.
I was drinking a lot back then too, man. I drank a lot back then. Well, comparatively,
and that can suppress any kind of growth that you're wanting to manifest for yourself. It's interesting because my 2012 experience, I remember I remember seeing a big poster about it like years before 2012 was happening. I think I was in Chicago on like a school bus ride or something in like the 7th or 8th grade. And I remember seeing a big poster about 2012, end of the world. And like I remember like
sure it wasn't for the movie 2012?
I think it was for the movie 2012, honestly, now that I think about it. But that was the very first association I had with 2012. So then that's when great. All the 2012 stuff started to happen, it was already like ingrained into my head that people think the world's just gonna end, and it's just gonna be the.
I never thought
it made me go into read the Revelations.
In Revelations.
Yeah, like it
foretells.
The Revelations in the Bible is very interesting because the Bible really is just like all like metaphors and allegories and all kinds of things that are encrypted. It's not literal, and we have to remember man has written it and has drastically changed it for their own agenda over the years. So being able to find the real actual Bible would take some time and energy, but I know it's out there somewhere.
Well, we are spirit, but that spirit also comes through a human vessel. Yes. Right? So
We are that vessel.
I feel like in ways
the meat suit is the vessel
right.
of the spirit.
I feel like in ways like
yes.
no matter what, like you're constantly having to stay vigilant about your own like sense of truth and wisdom.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like it can change and it should change, but you also have to make sure it doesn't change in such a way that it is demonstrative to your own well-being. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, because that can...
And you can believe certain stories about yourself that are just super false, and then that is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, you write that into your karma. You write that in, and then it becomes a thing where you have to then unlearn it and break yourself free from it. And I can tell you that there was definitely a lot of things that I told myself or really believed in, whether it was from that relationship or another previous relationship or anything like that, that I believed and made it a part of who I was in my story. And it took years of me shedding that and realizing that those were other people's stories, not my own. And I was taking it as if they were mine. And it's interesting how you said that I created a spiritual path, like this inspiration for you to
come back to it.
Because when I was leaving the last relationship, I was beginning to enter into it. I was like following it myself because I was looking for something more, and I was so desperate because it wasn't happening in my love life. It wasn't happening in other parts. I didn't feel like I had many friends. I had friends, but I didn't feel like really good about myself, honestly. So I was just desperate to seek out some kind of thing, and the spirituality just kind of found me. I wasn't even looking for it, to be totally honest. And it makes sense because looking back even in my childhood, like
back in 2011 when I started that,
I wasn't looking for it.
I wasn't looking for it at all. It's weird because I know specifically what started it too. Yeah, it was these series of YouTube videos called Spirit Science.
Oh yeah.
I started. I don't know what happened because like before that, I swear to God, like so I was a graphic designer for quite a while, and I was working for this company back in 2010-11, and I I had this routine of just listening to cartoons and TV shows while I worked. I wasn't watching them. I was just listening to them as I was, doing my stuff.
I mean, it's just like listening to like a radio show.
Yeah, like I just really enjoyed listening, specifically
or a podcast,
specifically South Park, because like I don't know why it was just so episodic. And each one was so self-contained and funny,
It makes sense because I think it allows you. I think it opens up your imagination because it kind of forces you to use your imagination to kind of picture like what's happening.
Because I've seen
you're listening
those episodes
to
like a
and
billion
you're an artistic
times.
Person, so
I can picture everything in my head as I'm working. But anyway, so I don't know what got me into it, but all of a sudden I stumbled upon a spirit science video. And I think it might have been like the whole hype about 2012 and like how that was going to be, and I was really kind of like, what the fuck is this all about? So I dived into spirit science and I was so enthralled by it because there were so many concepts that were similar to things that I had thought myself, but I'd never vocalized to anybody. Because I had been on a search for truth ever since I can remember. I remembered when I was taught the story of Jesus in the Bible and the typical like Christian, myth. Lots of it didn't make sense. So I was just what is this all about? I need to know more.
There's a lot of gaps.
Right. So, and then, the biggest one for me was...
At least in my experience.
Well, not to get off to track too much, but like the biggest one for me was the fact that there were so many different religions and everyone believed that theirs was the right one and that only one could be the right one. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
no.
What? So, but anyway... I think that like that propelled me into my spiritual development. And I will say when I was going through that period of my life, I remember it as well as being a period of great turmoil in my relationships because I was having an issue in the sexual side of the relationship that can happen to some guys where you can't perform. And that can have a massive impact on a relationship.
Yeah,
for
sex
me,
is a big part of a relationship.
right. And for me, it became tied in with my future and the thought of, will I ever be able to have a sustainable, normal relationship again? And it kind of became a thing where like sex was like a panic inducing experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me like many, many, many years to figure out what was going on, to come to kind of terms with my issues. But also, whilst I was doing all of that, I was meditating and manifesting a partner that would, be a particular vision of what I saw in a partner. And when I broke up, well, when the breakup happened with my last, with my ex, there was a period there when I was manifesting you unknowingly. I think I wasn't consciously thinking about it, but I was, or consciously like saying, I want this in my next partner. But I had it in my psyche that I wanted someone that was going to help me to work through things like that, rather than, because my ex was just, when I asked her, like, you don't want to work on our stuff, like, you don't want to work on this, like, you don't want me to help you like become less depressed. And she was like, no, I want out, like, I want gone, I don't want to.
Well, that's a common thing.
I don't want to work on it,
because because it's too much. It becomes a thing where
right.
they just can't, because they have to just work on themselves. I think, and
right, they have to work on themselves first.
Yes.
And I think you and I, in a short period of time, did a lot of work on ourselves.
Yes.
That then led us to one another.
Yes.
And the sense that has then it blossomed into, like, I know for me, and I'm pretty sure I can say this confidently for you too, I am living the life right now that I never in a million years thought that I'd be living.
Yeah.
And had any inkling at all that it was a good or important thing for me to do. Like, most of my life up until that point, I was following what I thought was the right way of going about life, what I thought was the right way of going about my life in particular, because I'm a very different person too than most. But at the same time, I also wanted to make sure that I was doing what I wanted to do and what the universe ultimately has in store for me. And bringing those two things together is what I think propels you faster, right? And I think that's what happened to us.
Yes.
Is that, like, we put ourselves in the right alignment, and that propelled us quicker to finding one another.
Yes.
In that moment. That's at least what I think happened.
Because we were willing to do the work.
I had no idea what I was about to say there, and it quite literally just, like, vomited out my mouth.
That's okay.
I had a minute of panic where I was like, wait, what am I saying? Where am I going with this? What's my next word?
I know, it's like the trail of Mary Jane. Like, sometimes she can take you in things. Yeah,
Mr.
I
Gatsby.
definitely, it was about 6 months that I met you. And the work on self doesn't stop. Like, the moment you meet your soulmate doesn't mean that your working on the self stops. Like, no, it continues, and it will always continue. But when you meet the right person, that I think it's just you've worked on that part of yourself that you needed to work on in order to attract that person. Right. And I remember, like, for me, I did some really hardcore manifestation for you. I very... Like, I really did.
I didn't go, like, that's to the level that you went to.
Yeah, I went
building
to
altars.
Well, yeah.
Lighting candles.
But that's just how I manifest. It's like another version of a vision board, but just a more physical perception of it. I was thinking, I was like, what's the word? I was like, I don't know, perception is the word, but that's the only word I can come out, so I guess that's it.
Going for it.
So what I did, like, for me, I wrote a list, and I almost, like, I like to, like, write manifestations. Well, now I'm doing it through I am statements, but I would, like, basically letters to the universe. So it'd be like, Dear Universe.
Dear Jesus.
Hi, it's me, Liz. Oh my God. And I would just basically list out in a long paper, like my paper for you. I don't think I've ever showed you.
I don't think
I should show you. I know I have it still. I save all of everything that I manifest, so I can always look back at it and see, like, okay, this is like what I did.
It's like
this
I
is
always
what
save
worked
my
and
sketches,
whatnot.
so I look back and I can see how bad of an artist I was.
Whereas me, I burn all my sketches because I don't like them. I don't keep anything. We're like, nope, this needs to be destroyed.
You're that student that I'm screaming at, like, why are you throwing your stuff away?
Because I don't like it, and I'm going to burn it, and it's going to die. Yeah, so something better can come. But so I wrote a list where I basically was like, I am so grateful and thankful for my romantic relationship with a partner who is artistic and very loving and supporting, and just basically like listed off all these things, and even went into detail of like manifesting a house in Hazel Park, Ferndale area, like, and we live in an area in this space, like, and I know that I did that when we were manifesting for this house too, but I basically did that where I was just naming off the traits that I would like to see in a partner, and basically also writing that I am happy, I am, ecstatic, I feel love, I feel supported. So I really focused on like the feeling aspect. And then I created candle altars for it. I read my list every single day. What else did I do? I carried crystals. I used this one crystal that's the shape of a pea, but it's called rhodochrosite.
I use crystals too to manifest.
Yes. Well, I used to wear mine in my bra back when I wore bras. I don't wear bras anymore.
I did not.
Yes. But I would wear it in my bra so it would sit in my heart chakra space. So I would always know that it's there, but then also allowed it to do work on my heart chakra. I just thought
you girls like putting things in your bras. I didn't realize.
No, we put. I mean, yeah, sometimes like they're nice pockets, but
heart.
Like no,
I see girls pull out like credit cards and IDs and stuff. I'm like,
yeah, I've done that before too. Because they're great pockets again. But I was intentionally doing that. So I did that, and like I said, I was doing candles, but then at the same time too, I was also doing work on myself. I was also trying to heal myself. I was trying to understand myself. I was trying to learn why this whole thing happened, how I got here, like what can I make the best of it. So simultaneously I was healing, trying to do things to heal myself. I was also pushing myself more in my career as well. And I was pursuing dating when I was manifesting, and so I waited like 3 months before I like started to actively manifest, because I took 3 months off to just kind of and I was kind of and I kind of was enthralled by a couple of people. There was one person in particular, but we're just friends, and I think this just was a heightened friend, and it was a very interesting relationship, but it was a relationship that propelled me forward, I think, to be more serious about what I was looking for, and to not, gravitate towards people who are just not available in some fashion. And I think that was the pattern that I was going through.
Man, I pined after this.
But now it's in a better space. I would say we could still be friends. I think we still are friends, like that particular experience. But yeah, so then it wasn't until 3 months afterwards that I started to like actively manifest you, and actively, and I went through a thing where I went through 12 people. You were the 13th person that I landed on, because it was a thing where we would talk and I would be like, nope, we're done. Or we would go on a date, nope, we're done. Like, I was in a space where I was like, if I'm not feeling it from the first time, or if there's something like a red flag that you're giving me, I'm immediately just ending it, because I'm not playing anymore. Like, that's exactly like what my mindset was. I was nice about it, but I was just like, nope, we're done. Nope, we're not. I'm not going to do this, or we're done pursuing this. And then I had an arrangement man, is what I said. That's what I called him. He was my arrangement.
It's called
man.
a booty call, Liz.
Yeah,
it's called a
arrangement
booty
man
call.
sounds more fancy, and I like it that way.
It
basically was a booty call. It was very much a booty call.
Sounds like a sexy Ken doll,
Yeah. Sexy Ken doll.
Yeah,
that's
man.
Hilarious.
It does.
But the arrangement man was also interesting and good too.
Arrangement man.
Yeah, the arrangement man was good too, because it allowed me, I think, to open up a little bit more sexually, because I've always been somebody who like I could never just like have sex with anybody. Like, I had to like
Really?
No, I had to know them. I had to
Oh,
have
I
some
see what
kind
you
of
mean.
connection with them. I
I
had
see
to
what you
like
mean.
have some kind of like thing. Like I could never like just go and have sex with somebody.
No, no
Like
one night stand stranger booties.
no, like I
No.
never could make myself do that. I had a lot of people encourage me to do it, but I could never do it. I could never like get myself to do that
Yeah,
for
I
whatever
must say
reason because I
it's been.
also knew it was an energy. I also because I mean when you have sex, you are exchanging energy.
Yeah.
So you do like receive like their energy as a female. You receive men's energy, and so I was in this phase where I'm like I've been cleansing myself. I don't want to have to cleanse my pussy all the time too, and cleanse my energy all the time, like because of like a potential what if of a nightstand. Like that was just mine. Now I'm not against it. Like go for it. Like have fun. Like I'm in full support of it. It's just I never could. That was like my mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and how I like just feel about it as much as I didn't want to feel that way. Like I tried really hard to and I just couldn't. It's just not who I am. And you know, I would say Liz, I think back then was sad about it, but I think I understand it now because it was a lot of like a protection thing more than anything.
I mean, I feel that. I mean, I think when I was younger, I always wanted, certain types of relationships or certain things within a relationship that never happened, or I got close to, but just never really happened. And it just was disappointing in the moment, disappointing for a while, but then you look back on it and you're like, oh, okay, I understand that person was kind of toxic, or that person just didn't have great energy.
Or there's just something about them that
I mean, I pined after this one girl for years, man. We dated for like a couple months for one summer, and then we stayed friends, and then we tried it again a couple years later, and man, it just was like not good. Like we were, I think we had a lot of fun together, right? But I think there was just this imbalance in the energy where like I was just giving too much to her, and she was just not giving much back, and that was just never gonna work. And I think that's the other part of relationships that you should be more cognizant of.
Give and take.
Are you giving too much to this relationship and not getting enough back?
Yep.
Or vice versa, right? Or are you realizing maybe this person's like giving me way too much, and I don't feel like I'm giving them enough, or I can give them enough, right? Yep. And that's typically people that don't have enough of their own cup filled first, right? What we were just talking about earlier, the self-love aspect of the partnership, the coupling.
Yes, which we'll dive even deeper into
next
episode.
Because we are all done.
Well,
first episode, season 5 in the bag.
I was like, well, no, there's like a little more that I feel like wants to come out.
A little more? It's like 2 minutes over, 3 minutes over,
Well,
girl.
technically it's not because
Don't give me that bullcrap.
It's not because this video was recording for a little over 2 minutes before we actually started the episode. So,
hurry it up.
Just saying.
Hurry it up.
So basically, what I would like to say about breakups is that, again, like they can change you and they can force us to do things that are new and exciting. Or sometimes they can have us do things that are maybe self-destructive. So again, I think when we go through breakups, one of the things that we need to ask ourselves after we've gone through a breakup is, what do I need to do to fill my cup back up?
That's a good idea.
Instead of like, how can I escape this? Or what kind of crazy shit, or woe is me.
Fuck
like,
that person.
Yeah, exactly. Like instead of going to like those things, which now, don't get me wrong, we're totally, and we should be expressing our emotions, because if you're angry, then express your anger, okay, but do it in a healthy way, like a way that's healthy and safe for everybody, because breakups like can cause us to do some crazy fucking shit, man. Like, and we see it all the time. We see it in movies, we've seen it with friends and family, because our heart, again, love is the ultimate emotion. So when that love gets broken, when that love gets like destroyed,
I'm telling you, this is the end of the show, because
because Lily, they're just like, restless. I'm ready to play. it can cause us to do things. It can cause us to go into a very survivalistic mode.
Yeah.
Where it becomes a thing where you become like vindictive and angry, to the point of manipulation and maybe even abuse yourself.
Your ego wants to be right. Your ego wants the other person to be wrong.
Yes.
You know, like it's trying to create this sense of self-preservation, right? And that's just not a great place to be always in and thinking about. It's like mud, man. You can get stuck down in that mud.
Yeah. So I think the other thing, the very, very last thing I'd like to say about breakups too is that when we do go through a breakup, if you do go through a breakup of some kind, and this breakup I don't think is just about love. Like this involves like friends, this involves family, this involves like any loved ones, honestly. Like this applies to all breakups, of all types. Breakups are also doorways to new beginnings. They are it is a form of transformation. It is a how would I say, an aspect, not an aspect, but a proponent or an essential, almost like physical representation of a transformation.
Interesting.
So just know that if there is a breakup of some kind, whether it's a friend, a loved one, a partner, or whatever, know that there's another door that is opening for you simultaneously while that door is being shut. You may not see that door, you may not know what that door is immediately, but you will eventually find it. But breakups don't just happen for a reason, especially traumatic ones. I feel like they are gateways to things. So, not just traumatic ones. I think breakups of all kind, because they shake us.
So it's like the concept of, in order to create any kind of change, you have to destroy, but that also holds true for cycles. So if you are holding on to this cycle of loss of love, reaction to that is anger, fear, frustration, jealousy.
You'll see that play out in various ways throughout your life, right? Through job, friends, family.
So the goal is to then
health,
take
wealth.
that breakup and to give it love, and then to see that the breakup is actually pushing you in the direction of your ultimate kind of fantasy, or ultimate
your best
dream.
Self, your higher self.
Something that is even better than that thing that you thought you lost.
Yes.
So that's a great way to end it.
Yes. So I was like, see, there's like a little more that wanted to come out.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening and or watching, depending on if you're listening via podcast or watching on our YouTube channel.
That's right.
So thank you so much for subscribing on our YouTube channel, to those who have subscribed. And thank you for watching all of our Wake and Bake. So for those podcast listeners, I don't know if the podcast listeners know. So podcasters, we are on Instagram doing some mini shows every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We were doing it on YouTube, but we moved over to Insta.
We packed up our bags. We rented the U-Haul.
Yeah. YouTube was trying to tell us that
the content
they kept for sexually
explicit stuff.
Yeah,
and what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, what are we talking about?
And it was every video, every week.
Yeah, but anyway, weeks. So we're good now. So it was just a thing where it was like, we felt the call to go to Instagram
for a little while.
So Instagram, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a Wake and Bake every single week. And then on Friday, we do another version of that called Make and Bake.
Ooh. What other mini shows would they do?
I know, right?
Could they do a shake and bake? Could they do a dance-off show?
Ooh.
That'd be interesting.
Dance and bake.
Yeah.
Dance and bake.
Could they do a Jake and Bake where they invite a friend named Jake on for half an hour?
I kind of want to explore that.
I don't know a Jake.
I know a Jake. I know lots of Jakes. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I actually know lots of Jakes.
Was one of those 12 boys you dated? No, I'm just
no. But
anyway, continue.
But anyway, we're doing Make and Bakes, and basically what those are going to be is us creating art Well, getting baked.
Crafting.
Yes, and that's actually
and
something.
Cannabis.
Yes, crafting and cannabis.
I like my alliteration.
Yes, I know you do.
Go ahead. Continue.
So please, if you would like to watch that, we're only doing them on Instagram. So please make sure that you are following us at higher. Is it underscore?
Oh, I have no clue, babe.
Yeah, it is higher because it's like the dashes and the underscores every
It's
time.
so ridiculous.
Okay, it really is. Like I wish it could just all be the same and consistent across the board, but the internet want to be like no.
We should really just not have such a common name for our show.
Oh!
I got snotted on. All right, you got to end the show while I take care of the
higher
snot.
underscore consciousness underscore talk is our Instagram.
I'm breaking up with you.
And our website. Don't do that. He doesn't know. He's so. I love Gatsby, but he's just like so gross, and he like knows it, but he's also so innocent that he like really doesn't know it, and he's just kind of like
it just went all on me.
A cute baby kind of thing. It's really interesting. So higher-consciousness-talk.com is our website. If you would like to find our YouTube channel, it is Higher Consciousness Talk. But another quick way to find it is if you go to a Meaningful Dreams channel, which is my personal business, and if you scroll down to the bottom, it will have a featured channel, and the Higher Consciousness channel is directly attached to it. So subscribe to a Meaningful Dreams channel too while you're there, but then that's how you can find a quicker way than going through, because higher consciousness is like a really popular search term on YouTube.
Like a lot.
Which I find really interesting.
So
we're trying to beat
figure that out.
Yes, we're working on figuring it out. But so if you just go through that way, you'll be able to find it pretty quickly. So that's where you're watching us here. So if you are watching us here on YouTube, please subscribe and like this video and let us know what you think. Let us know how you feel. I'm sure share any of your breakup stories with us if you'd like. And we would love to open up and continue the conversation with you all. And then thank you so much, podcast listeners. We love you and support you. And we're grateful for you supporting us, I should say.
Absolutely.
We support you too, though.
That's what we're here to do.
That is what you're here to
other.
do. Yeah, since day one. And I would say we are around the time of Higher Consciousness birthday. I just don't know exactly when. So happy birthday, Higher Consciousness.
Yay!
And thank you to all our listeners and watchers. Look at us, season 5 and a bunch of different social media outlets. We're awesome.
It's amazing.
Next episode, self-love, next week, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye. Listen to more Higher Consciousness every Thursday on Spotify at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.